said, the four teams that will be in the regional: LSU, Arkansas, Little Rock, Dallas Baptist, and Rhode Island. Let's start off with the inevitable. Earlier, we talked about how a lot of you probably stated, and probably rightfully so, that LSU's regional seemed very favorable. And I am not here to disagree with you, because I do think that there are some reasonable things here. Now, if you went down the entire tournament and you went down bracket to bracket, I could say that there are, some teams that for sure got some very difficult draws. Ole Miss, the 10 seed, getting Georgia Tech. But if you put Georgia Tech anywhere, it's going to be bad on any team. They deserve to be in. Are you going to put them in a team that was at number 6? Or are you going to put them in a team that was at number 10? I don't know. It's not my decision to do that. Or you look at the Hattiesburg Regional with Southern Miss. Well, the 16th team in the country probably does deserve the toughest regional that should be out there. And I do think that they have the toughest regional, as Hattiesburg is going to be hosting in USM, Miami, Alabama. Now, in reference to Baton Rouge and LSU, I do think it's very favorable for you. There's no hiding from it, and quite frankly, there's no running from it. But somebody was going to get Arkansas Little Rock. Do you want to bring them up to Arkansas? Well, they played Arkansas this year. We'll get to that in a moment. Rhode Island won their conference. Oh, just like Rhode Island did. Just like Little Rock did. Where are they going to go? Somebody is going to get these matchups. Now, I still think Texas got a very favorable schedule. Very favorable bracket. Very favorable bracket for the team that for the longest time throughout the entire season was the number 1 team in the country before Vanderbilt overtook them for the number 1 overall seed. But there is one team in here that's in the Baton Rouge Regional that I think that everybody sees DBU, and that we beat them early in the season in the midweek and say to ourselves, quit it. Blake, quit it. We beat DBU. They're not any good. DBU had a very strong chance of hosting. Kind of a little bit of a flunder and a blunder down the stretch as they played Jacksonville State 3 times this past weekend and lost twice. Didn't get a regional host. And that is understandably so, because we'll talk a lot about DBU this week. And I don't think that you should overlook them in the slightest. And we're going to start off with them tonight. Because we already know what Dallas Baptist is. We did see them. And quite frankly, guys, they're a really solid team. A very solid team. Now, if you remember earlier in the season, when LSU did play DBU, it was the Connor Ware game where he came out and he looked electric, and you're thinking early in the season, man, is Connor Ware going to be that third guy? Is Connor Ware going to be the guy that you can come out to on a Sunday-type situation? If Chase Shores doesn't work out as a starter, do you go to Connor Ware? Because, man, that DBU performance was really good. And that's what a lot of us thought in the 7-3 win against Dallas Baptist. But here's the truth. There are other SEC teams, mainly Oklahoma, but 2 teams in the tournament that they did play. And then they played Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. They blasted Oklahoma multiple times. In the first one, they beat Oklahoma 11-0. In the second game versus Oklahoma, they beat them 9-1. So remember that team that you played in the beginning of the season who you held down to only 3 runs? That same team went into a game against Oklahoma and won a series against them, basically. And didn't only beat them, they whipped the dog shit out of them. Guys, in 2 games, they scored 20 runs. Well, Blake, Oklahoma's not LSU. You're right, they're not. But they still blasted the shit out of them. They also beat Oklahoma State and TCU, 2 tournament teams. Against TCU, they had to walk it off and won 6-5 in the 10th. The same with Oklahoma State when they won 8-7 in the 11th. Because DBU's a real team, and they're a real squad. What got missed in all of this was that you had Little Rock and that you had Rhode Island in the bracket with you, and everybody's like, absolute no names. Absolute no names. but they got in. Well, if I'm LSU, I'm not gonna say anything about it because the structure of the tournament is if you win your conference's tournament, you get an automatic bid, which, by the way, I still think is very dumb. I think it's very dumb. It puts no innings on the offseason. Zero, zilch, nada. We saw a team in Hammond, Louisiana that was a co-champion of their conference, and because they didn't win their own conference in their tournament, they're out. Don't know how fair that is. Dallas Baptist is a team that if you're not careful, guys, they got a crap load of talent. They have a big-time left fielder who will blast the shit out of the baseball. We'll talk about it a lot this week. A big-time catcher that is great defensively and will run one out of the park. Shit, he ran one out on you earlier in the year. Don't mistake seeing DBU, a lower-tier team, being in your regional, because they can come to Baton Rouge and win it. I don't know if there is a team, for what it's worth, that can come into Baton Rouge against this LSU team, though, and beat them. I'm not predicting, nor do I think. Do I think there's a scenario that LSU could lose the regional? Absolutely. And we'll get to the bats in just a moment and what we saw in the game versus Ole Miss. But, man, they're a really solid club. And the justification from a lot of you is going to be, Blake's trying to sell hot air at me. He's trying to push a narrative that doesn't exist. Well, then you're going to have to tell me how they went 4-1 against conference teams, and the only conference teams that they lost to are conference teams. The only teams, I say conference team meaning SEC, and Big 12. Guys, tournament teams with big-name profile programs, they went 4-1 against. They blasted Oklahoma, an SEC team, twice. Well, Blake, that's the midweek. And your point? What's your point? Shit, guys, we went into that DBU game because they're a top 15 team saying, hey, man, listen, they might not be one of the elite teams in the SEC, but this is not a pushover game. And guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't. They can win your regional. Now, before I get to LSU, I want to mention something about Rhode Island and Little Rock. Let's start with Rhode Island. Because Rhode Island had a 4-game series this year with Oregon. And Oregon has been a solid club this year. Not great, not perfect, but very solid. They did lose the series against Oregon 3-1. They went into Oregon. They went into Eugene and beat them in game 1, 12-11. They lost game 2, 1-0. They lost game 3, 19-12. They lost game 3, 15-2, which tells me this. They ran out of pitching in game 4. Guys, they legitimately gave Oregon all that they could handle. Every little bit that they can handle. Guys, scrappy teams that get hot late in baseball should give you a little, all right, they ain't coming here and winning. We better take them serious. And guys, quite frankly, you should take everybody seriously. And that's how I think that Jay Johnson is going to take this weekend. Because of course he is. You see Rhode Island, you see a team from up north, and you think to yourself, they're ass. Guys, they're not complete ass. They're not better than you. And nobody in your regional is more talented than you. Guys, you can make the justification, and if everything was played on paper, you can make the justification that nobody in your regional, or therefore what would be your super regional, is more talented than you. But this is baseball, and anything can happen. It's what makes the game fantastically perfect in some scenarios. They're going to come in here and swing the sticks. They got an older club. with a lot of guys that have seen a lot of baseball, and guys, experienced players scare the shit out of me in college baseball. We saw a team last year in Tennessee. We saw a team last year in A&M. We've seen teams in the past that have gone out in the portal and got these experienced players from no-name university, from Rudy Poo Tech or Ivy League Tech, and they've come in here and hit above 300 in this league. We've continuously seen it. We've seen it. We've breathed it. And Rhode Island's got a lot of upperclassmen that you're going to see. Upperclassmen that will come off the bench and pitch hit in critical situations. They have stuck around, and they've stuck with it. Good on the Rhode Island Rams. And then you have the game on Friday in your 4 seed that you'll see in Little Rock. Guys, there's no way in blue hell I can justify saying that, look, Rhode Island, they're scrappy. They beat Oregon. They lost 3 in a row, but they fought their ever-living asses off. Dallas Baptist beat the dog shit out of a couple of SEC teams, and also in extra innings beat 2 teams that are in the tournament. We can make that justification of these teams. Don't play around with them. Guys, Little Rock, I ain't coming up in here and justifying shit. They got hot at the right time. They don't have a winning record. They're Tulane. The Walmart version of Tulane. Remember in 2023 when Tulane came off in here, and out of nowhere they won their conference tournament. Out of nowhere, here come the Green Wave. I do think that Green Wave team was better than what you will see in Rhode Island. And it sparks the question, like it did in 2023, what is head coach Jay Johnson going to do? Is Jay going to run out Cade Anderson or Anthony Ianson out there in game 1? I have no idea. I know that he probably knows. But I also saw him take what would become Major League Baseball's starting pitcher for the National League in Paul Skeens and throw him against Tulane. And, guys, he got hit around a little bit. Go back and rewatch that game if you don't believe me. Paul gave up some runs. Paul gave up some hits. Paul had a line drive hit right off his leg, if you remember. Guys, there's no way in hell, none, no way in hell that you should lose this team. Little Rock is a team that got swept by Nichols. Guys, they got swept by Nichols. Blake, Nichols almost knocked us off. Yeah, you're right. They did. You're right. They did. Almost. They got swept by him. They got run-ruled by Arkansas. But in game 2 in a midweek, they lost 4-0. Guys, this team is not good. They're not good at all. This is baseball and anything can happen. And I get that. Teams get hot all the time and crazy shit happens. As we go along the week, I guess you can make the justification and see what Jay does. But guys, quite honestly, if you got to go into a game Friday and you just can't beat the dog shit out of Rhode Island and let the Sticks win it for you, then I don't know. And Jay's going to, and we all will do this throughout the week. We will all look at them and see what happened. How good are they as a team? How bad are they as a team? What have they overcome? What have they done in their tournament? Who do you throw? Do they go against lefty? What's their batting average against lefties? What is their batting average against righties? Do they struggle against elite spin? Do they struggle against an elite secondary pitch? Is what Anthony Ianson and Cade Anderson has. Can you get away with holding off Cade Anderson and holding off Anthony Ianson? Can you do it? I don't know. I have no clue what he's going to do, but I'm glad that we have the option. And I'm glad that both of them got work in game 1 in the SEC tournament to give you that option. Now, I said this in a pre-recorded thing that we posted on YouTube while we were out. I hope so. I hope all of you watched it. But I'll say it again if you didn't hear it then. I'll say it what I said on Wednesday, what I said on Friday, and what I'm going to say today. Because Jay Johnson knew that he was in the top 8. There's no way that you can justify, oh, well, he knew he had to win a game in the tournament. The fuck he did. He knew he was in the top 8. You can't convince me otherwise. I cannot be convinced otherwise. You can try to justify the means. I'm not listening to it because there's no way he runs out there and brings out Anthony Ianson, brings out Cade Anderson, and tells you on Wednesday before going to the SEC tournament that he's going to do it. I want both of my aces to see action. And you thought that he was fucking going crazy. No, he was being legit. Do you think that he knew something that maybe you didn't? Newsflash, he did. Now, speaking of the tournament, because I have not been public in speaking about this. I know a lot of you are panicked about what you saw against Ole Miss. Guys, I've lost no sleep over it. 0. Maybe I am being too naive to the struggles of what we saw on Saturday. But this is how Blake Ruffino views it. And if you agree with it, great. If you don't, sounds good too. Because sometimes teams have your number. And I don't think any of us fully understand what happened with Ole Miss this weekend. I don't. They went up against Arkansas, and they beat them, and they pretty much shut down one of, if not arguably, the SEC's best offensive team. Florida, who made the postseason, who started off the SEC 1-11, by the way, 1-11 was Florida, and they made the postseason based off of the run that they made in the half end of their schedule, and they're in. They're in. Poor Coastal Carolina is going to get that ass waxed. But they're in. Pause. They went up against you, and they went up against Vandy, who won the whole damn thing and the number 1 seed. And guys, quite frankly, if we're going to call a spade, they gave up 6 runs in 4 games. And any pitching staff that goes up against any SEC team at any given juncture in a 4-game span, and they give up 6 runs, that's elite shit. They're hitting on all cylinders, and good for Ole Miss. That is elite. You went on a similar run last year in the SEC tournament. Do you remember? Now, you weren't a host site. You weren't a team that deserved to be a host site. But, guys, teams can get very hot in a week. They can have a streaky week, and it's exactly what happened with Ole Miss. They dominated other teams besides you, but I understand the concern. Well, Blake, those other teams got runs. You're right. They did. You got 2 hits. And yes, I don't think that you can come into this situation and say to yourself, man, in the back of my mind, is that team going to show up? Because if you've been following this show religiously, and if you've been following any baseball content, what has been the number 1 talking point outside of the dumb bullshit that we got to compare Jay Johnson to Les Miles, other than that or Ed Orgeron, that stupid shit, what have we talked about? You went to Oklahoma and you swept them, but you didn't hit worth the shit. You went to Auburn, you didn't hit worth the shit. You went to A&M and you didn't hit worth the shit. Now, if you want to make the argument with me that, Blake, this team can't go on the road and the bats just go cold, fine. By all means, let's have the discussion because you're not technically wrong. But that team at home, this team at home has shown that they demolished the baseball. They demolished the baseball. So, in closing, for now, I know we're having some internet issues. I don't know what's going on here. All I will say is this. If we go into a situation thinking that this team is not an Omaha quality team based off of one game and an entire sample size, guys, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I saw a team last year in LSU come 1 run short, well, really 2 runs short, of beating Tennessee, the national champion, in an SEC tournament. I saw it with my own eyes. So did you. I saw a team, then the next game that they would play, get in a dogfight with Wofford. I saw a team 2 years ago in Vanderbilt, which ironic that LSU's a top seed and Vandy won in 23, the SEC tournament in 23, and they won it again this year. It is ironic to me that we saw a Vandy team who a couple of years ago won the fucking tournament and was the hottest team that was out there, and then they turn around the next weekend and lost to Justin Lohr and Xavier. Guys, against Ole Miss, you made a lot of solid contact. You did. Ethan Frice, line drive to third with Jake Brown in motion. Curio had a couple of balls that he hit really hard. Guys, sometimes that's baseball. Now, again, you can have it because I do too. I have it in the back of my mind too. Well, Blake, man, that's the last game that we saw. What if we go into the regional and lay an egg again? I just have seen a team all year go on the road and struggle. And they've struggled. But here's the thing, though. I've also seen every team in the SEC go on the road most of the times and struggle. I just don't see a world, and I don't see a situation, humbly, I don't know if I see a situation where you go into this regional and you don't win it. This team is a different team at home. They've been that way since game 1. They were that same way in game 25 and 30. They're the same right now. And guys, quite frankly, it is what it is. But I am not going to base my entire life's opinion on this team because of one game. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I saw Tennessee with, guys, let's call it what it is, arguably the best, one of the best offensive lineups in the country. 7 of the 9 stars that they have are in double-digit home runs, and the 8th is 1 home run away from having 10. 7 of those 9 are hitting above 300. And I saw them get zilched by Vanderbilt and get run ruled. And got run ruled. As I mentioned in the beginning of this segment, you can't sleep on DBU. You just can't. They've gone up against SEC teams. They've gone up against tournament teams, and they've blasted the dog shit out of Oklahoma, and they went into extra innings versus TCU and Oklahoma State and won. You can't – you played them. You know the danger is real with them at the plate. It is very real. But I think you have the best 1-2 combo in the country. I think that you showed and you have a soaring Chase Shores who's throwing well over 100 and got up to 102 last weekend. And then Jacob Myers coming in here. Nate Yeske, tip of the cap. Hell of a job. For the guy that y'all wanted fired, hell of a job. It's a hell of a job, man. Hell of a job. But the one massive thing that got missed this weekend, more than anything, Jay Newt looked good, Chase Shores looked good, and Jacob Myers looked really good. And guys, if you're going to get that level of production on the mound at home with this team who kills the baseball at home, you are going to fucking Omaha. You're going. I don't give a shit what any of y'all want to come in here and tell me. You will go.